Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Adler, continuing my video series, which follows up my book, Why I'm Right. This is Why I'm Right 2.0, Chapter 11. Today we're going to talk about the violence in politics that we've been seeing lately, to again try to tie some current events into political philosophy. I'm calling this chapter The Deadly Left, and we're going to explain why I believe that the left is far more historically violent, far more responsible for the violence we see, politically speaking, for the most part, but also throughout our society today. Before I get into any of that, I want to take a quick moment to respond to, or to go into and comment about my last video, which had to do with global warming. The last video was the 10th videos that I did. Sometimes they're by themselves, sometimes they're, a number of parts to them, but the 10th chapter, let's say, of video that I did. And it was the first time I got a comment by anybody other than a like or a view or a whatever. And my part of my enjoyment of making these videos, which is really just for me, as I mentioned in my first video. I'm not doing it to impress anybody. I'm not doing it to convince anybody of anything. If it happens, great. This is for me to vent and do it in a constructive way that is not going to cause any grief or conflict with people on Facebook and other social media sites, what have you. But I open it up to comment on YouTube, for instance. But one of the good things that come from this is to piss off liberals, and that's my goal to do, and to frustrate them. If you want to comment, great. If you want to be snarky in your comments, be snarky. You might get some snark back. You might also not get anything back because it wastes my time. But I want to reemphasize that I don't mind the comments. I don't mind them if they're constructive. I don't mind them if they disagree with me utterly, completely, totally, and what have you. What I do mind is if you're going to cherry pick, as liberals tend to do, comments, where you spend paragraph after paragraph debunking something I say and forget the other 99 things I might have brought up. Pretty much proves my point. I also mind when people use the opportunity to hide behind a comment rather than to go out and do something themselves. But I want to make one thing absolutely clear: no matter what you're doing, what you're commenting on, what you're saying, again, you do whatever you want. It's a free country. That's why I leave it open to comments. I don't shut that part down. And that is, I'm doing this as an opinion piece. I'm not doing this as here's absolute proof, because I do some of the research. But what I'm usually doing, for the most part, I'm going to move this a little bit over here. What I'm doing for the most part is to express a philosophy, not to express actual math or actual chemistry or actual science, whatever. I'm researching those who have done that and reporting it. If I was knowledgeable in as many areas that it would be required for me to prove by myself every assertion I'm making, I would have no time to make the video. I'd be too busy getting my master's degree in 14 different subjects. So when I'm saying things, it's not that I've done the proof, it's that others have done it and I'm reporting on it. It's what I found as far as research. It's done all the time. Some talking head on Fox News or NBC or whatever, they're not doing the science themselves or the math themselves or the whatever themselves. They're finding someone who did and reporting on it. That's all I'm doing. If I find a bunch of information or proof that I'm right on something, I'm going to tell you. If I find I'm wrong, hopefully we'll tell you that too. But this is not about so commenting on me being unable to provide accurate math or to somehow back up these quick points that I'm trying to make and shorten these videos so that it's not going on forever with dry whatever information that people would be turned off by. Too bad if you're expecting that, because that's not what these videos are. And if you're going to comment and complain about the fact that I'm not going to sit here and take an hour and a whiteboard and try to do, math, which I'm not very good at anyway, to prove a point I'm trying to make, when this is all about philosophy, about an average guy's, this is my book is about an average guy's view on politics, not a scientist's view on politics, not a pundit's view on politics, not a mathematician's view on politics, any of that, this average guy's view on politics, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. So waste your breath if you want, but that's not what these videos are about. Okay? So let's move on. And let me fix this whiteboard because it's driving me crazy. Okay. So, hopefully you can still read that, but if not, we'll go through it. Okay. So, the deadly left. So, recently we've seen, and by recently I mean over the last number of years, a seeming rise in the amount of violence we see across the country that is politically motivated or otherwise. But it's nothing new. It may be on the rise, but the reasons for it are nothing new either. I want to get something real clear before we start into this, because the blame game, the who's worse, right wingers, left wingers, who's more violent, there's a fine line here you can cross where you become pedantic, where you're becoming rah for our side, you're worse than we are, we're better than you are, and and trying to use violence or use bad things happening to gain political points. And I complain about that, the left doing it, but look, the right does it too. But as I said in at least 3 other videos, I believe, it's all a matter of degree. Now, when I hear some nutball on a station that I refuse to listen to on any basis, this is just sound bites or actuarials or whatever being put on social media or radio that I listen to or to television, whatever, where these left-wing media folks, whatever, knee-jerk, the minute something bad happens, the minute somebody shoots somebody, the minute there's some mass shooting or whatever the deal is, they immediately say right-wing. They immediately blame right-wing talk show hosts. They immediately blame right-wing politicians. They immediately blame guns. They are the reactionaries, not us. And they almost always, and I mean almost always, are proven to be wrong. They can't hold their water until the proof is out or the facts are in. They gotta pull forward, try to set the narrative for everybody to listen to, and get it in their heads that that's the truth before the truth comes out, so that when the truth comes out, they're already thinking they know the deal, they don't have to listen to it anymore, and they go off thinking this wrong thing is what caused the violence. Now, I can't just sit here and say that the matter of degree means that the left wing is worse than the right wing without proving it. And this is where my philosophy, commenter people, comes into play. It is noticing and taking note of history, of what goes on in my lifetime that I can recall and remember, of mentally categorizing, putting away for future use what the liberals did, what the right wingers did, what was happening, what was being said at the time, who did what, and what ended up being the truth later on. And it's my belief, and if you can disprove this, go ahead, and I'll talk about that in a second, that more often than not, the people who perpetrate mass murder, serial killers, and assassins are left-wingers, or they have no affiliation that is discernible at all, or it is based on other means, like religious reasons, or they're mentally unstable, which actually you could say is true for all of them. But if you were to go online and try to research, who did what, or what was the political motivation, a lot of the times you won't find anything, which is almost impossible to believe that there's nothing to find, because it's probably been taken away, or it's purposely made hard to find. The easy stuff is this people who want to blame right-wingers for something. That's out there, first page, right there in front of your face. It takes a little more time to find the opposite belief where somebody is actually maybe not a right-winger after all, but a left-winger. When there's undeniable proof someone's a left-winger, try looking up in Wikipedia anybody's political affiliation. Unless they're a right-winger, you'll never see it. This is the bane of a person like me who has feelings up front about a certain subject and then goes and tries to prove that they're right about it. And if you're a right winger or a Republican or a conservative like I am, good freaking luck. It's purposely made difficult to find. But I did find it, and I will say this. A lot of times in this discussion here, we're going to mention that somebody was a Democrat that was responsible for violence. In some cases, they may only be a Democrat leaner or a left-leaning person. They may not even be a registered Democrat. Or they might just be a registered Democrat, which in and of itself means nothing unless they acted on that ideology somehow. A lot of times it's very jumbled. A lot of lines are crossed and overlapped where they might be nothing. They sound like they're left wing, but they sometimes have right wing things going on, which means they either don't know the difference. They've confused the two. There's a great example of that with one of the mass murderers or mass shooters from just a few years ago, where he said he was a conservative Republican, but every other thing he put in that information about his politics were left wing, which means that either he's being cute, clever, he doesn't know what the hell the words mean, or what have you. So you should follow their deeds more than their words. So let me start out by talking about assassins. Okay, this is not working, so put that right here. Okay. Assassins are people who go after people who are usually in charge of something. They're heads of something, heads of state, political leaders, whatnot, what have you. And there's an interesting historical note with regard to, and I'm just talking about American assassins against Americans. There's an interesting historical thing that occurred or started way back in the early 19th century that applies to the deaths of American presidents. Some of you may have heard of this. It's called the Curse of Tecumseh. And William Henry Harrison, a Democrat, he successfully defeated a resistance movement led by two brothers of the Shawnee tribe Tecumseh, and his brother was Tenskwatawa. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. It was actually Tenskwatawa who was called the prophet. His nickname was the prophet, who put the curse on him. So why it's called Curse of Tecumseh, his brother, I have no idea. I wasn't there at the time. Apparently he put a curse on all American presidents from that point forward. What the curse was exactly, I can't find, or how it was put into place. But basically, as it turned out, that starting with William Henry Harrison, who later became President of the United States in 1840, in a period of time where all presidents were Democrat, as a payback, starting with him, every president who was elected or elected in a 20-year cycle died, either in office or at some point, I guess in office. And William Henry Harrison died 31 days into his presidency, the shortest term of any president in history. And in 1860, Abe Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. In 1880, James Garfield was assassinated. In 1900, William McKinley was assassinated. In 1920, Warren G. Harding died. He had a very short time in office. He had a heart attack or a stroke. They're not sure. FDR died from a cerebral hemorrhage. He was a president during 1940, a 20-year span. JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, died in 1963, but he was president in 1960, the 20-year span. And he ended it, or he was the last to die in office, but there was an attempt on Ronald Reagan in 1980, or a president who was elected in 1980, but he broke the curse by living. And just to make sure the curse was dead, we hope, someone made an attempt on George W. Bush's life, and he was elected in 2000. So 120 years of deaths, 160 years of attempted deaths, if you will, and those last two failed assassination attempts hopefully ended the curse. We won't really know until 2020. That being said, and of course there were other attempted assassins that were at other times. Gerald Ford had two people try to assassinate him. Nixon had one. Lots of other ones had them. It's less notable maybe because of their lack of success, but only the ones in the 20-year time frame ended up dying until Ronald Reagan defied the odds. So we're going to talk about who were the assassins in the last 170 years, whatever, starting with Abe Lincoln on part 2. All right, we'll see you on part 2. Take care.